Is the U.S. government propagandizing its own citizens?
The legendary Willy Bragg joins us to talk about that and much more today on The Undercurrent. What up?
How you doing, Uncle Warren?
Wow. I don't want to go into a full detail, but let's just say the chili macaroni I had yesterday, it was good going down. But we'll just leave it at that. But no, otherwise I'm fine. It's nice here today. It's like in the 60s. It's 65 degrees.
Wow.
No, right? It was like the flames of hell, like what, last week? So, you know, but I'll take 65 degrees any day, and no humidity either.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Yeah. Did we fast forward to fall already? Is that I missed a lot? So, you know, I don't know.
I envy you. Yesterday, it was just impossible. It was well into the 90s, totally humid. I finally was able to go out and take my walk at 9 o'clock, after 9 o'clock at night. And I still came back soaking wet.
Well, you'll probably be soaking wet again today. There's a tropical storm, Bertha, down there. We're going to do a little quick update on that today. But first, let's bring in our guest. He was a showgirl in Vegas back in the 1950s, and now he joins us here. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented Willy Bragg. How you doing?
Willy, it's so good to see you. Always good to see you, Willy Bragg.
Great seeing you too, Lainie. And it's 87 degrees here just outside of Raleigh.
Oh yeah. Well, you get that southern humidity. You're both down south, so it's like I mean, we get it up here too, Lainie. You know that. You know, we'll get like 90s and humid and just everybody's you know, they want nothing to do with it. But for the weather gods are shining on us today, so I'll take it. So how you doing, Willy? Everything good? You all right?
Oh yeah. Looking forward to September when the weather gets a little more to my liking.
That's right.
Indeed.
William Shatner is going to be in Chicago in September for Riot Fest. He's going to have his heavy metal band.
That's really exciting.
It's funny. He put out this video. He said, I hope you'll be there. And then he said, I hope I'll be there. Because, you know, he's like 95 degrees.
Yeah,
95 degrees. 95 years old. He's hot, baby. He's hot. He's 95 degrees.
He's always hot. I mean, I think it's absolutely spectacular. It's going to be, I envy y'all up there.
Yeah, we'll take it while we got it. We got CBC voter in the house. What's up, CBC? Good to see you. We are currently streaming on Chicago Corner. We are.
Thank you so much to them.
Online. Yes, very much. Of course, our own channel, The Undercurrent for you. That the links in the description down below if you want to subscribe to us. We appreciate that. It's on Extra Bola too, and of course Lainie's channel, and we're on Facebook on a couple spots as well. We're all over the place. We're like Visa. We're everywhere, only without the price gouging. So
we're like a pandemic.
Yes, we spread, and you better wear a mask when we're around because we're going to infiltrate. So we've got news stories here. I think that's what we do around here. So I was telling you about the South. We got a little tropical storm down there. Not a hurricane. I don't think it's a hurricane yet. It hasn't reached the speeds, but we'll tell you what's going on here. If I can get to the right page. Here we go. All right. So this update: beaches closed and sandbags filled as tropical storm Bertha approaches the Gulf Coast. So communities on the Gulf Coast, the U.S. Gulf Coast, distributed sandbags and closed beaches as tropical storm Bertha threatened to bring flooding and strong winds Wednesday. That would be today. From the Florida Panhandle to Louisiana, we're going to show you its track here in just a moment. Bertha was forecast to make landfall tonight in the coastal and lightly populated part of Louisiana, southeast of New Orleans, with winds as the biggest threat, according to Michael Buchanan, a National Weather Service meteorologist in Louisiana. So early today, the storm was centered about 145 miles west-southwest of Panama City, Florida, and 75 miles east of the mouth of the Mississippi. It was moving west at 6 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour. according to the Miami-based National Hurricane Center. So there's also there's a hurricane in the Pacific too. Yes, Hurricane Fausto in the Pacific. But it's not close yet, but it's brewing up pretty good. So let's go to zoom.earth here if I can make these streams come true. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the Gulf Coast here, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. We got Willie somewhere around here, Lainie somewhere around here. Now I'm way the hell up here. Yay, Christmas. So this is it right here. This is Bertha. Once it gets to around like 75 miles per hour winds, that's when it becomes like a category 1 hurricane. So it's basically just making a beeline west. It's going to clip over the boot of Louisiana apparently, and then end up in Texas. So it's funny, and I was thinking about this too. I was thinking about when Jen Heller was with us a couple weeks ago talking about disaster preparedness, and I mentioned something about hurricanes and down there. Those people are very prepared now. I think Katrina, when it hit back in 2005, it scared the pants off a lot of people, and now they've really had to rethink their evacuation routes and preparations and stuff like that. So much love to the folks down there.
Absolutely. It's and then we're supposed to be getting just a pretty serious weather situation this summer. I've been hearing a whole lot about that.
El Nino, I believe, is going to be in full effect, which means the boy in Spanish, if you're into Spanish. I forgot to tell you off the top, our buddy, speaking of Heller's, Ed Heller's mom is currently in the hospital. She's going to be having surgery today. So I just want to ask everybody, if you're a prayer, pray for her. Make sure, she's a little bit up there in age, so every little bit helps. If you're not, if you could send out the positive healing vibes, we appreciate that as well. So,
absolutely.
Yes. Good man, Ed Heller. His mom too. Have you ever met his mom?
I have not met his mother, but of course I know Ed very well, and I'm very concerned. I know they're a great family. They're just a great family.
I met her a couple of times. She's a real sweetheart, and she has to be if she's Ed's mom.
She does.
Yeah. We kid Ed. Ed's good people too. He's a handful. He's a little bit of a character, but we love Ed. He's good people. So so apparently there was some shenanigans over there in New York outside Federal Plaza, and now they have found out who this person is.
Yes.
Let's get to this story real quick. So FBI says man who set fire outside 26 Federal Plaza in Lower Manhattan is an Army veteran. Police say a man armed with a collection of weapons used fireworks to start a fire outside 26 Federal Plaza in Lower Manhattan around 8:30 a.m. on Monday. Andrew Arabica doused a stairwell with gasoline, ignited it with a firework, and sent flames and smoke up the facade of the building before he fired 5 to 7 pellets from an airsoft gun, the FBI said. Arabica is a former U.S. Army soldier from 2001 to 2005 who worked as a mechanic on Patriot missile systems. Mr. Arabica came armed with bad intentions, FBI Assistant Director in Charge James Barnacle said. The Poughkeepsie resident had 2 axes, a hammer, a machete, and knives, in addition to fireworks and gasoline, according to officials. The flames quickly spread, but they were put out before they reached the building where immigrants are processed and FBI and ICE officers are located. The suspect, described by the Department of Homeland Security as an anti-ICE rioter, was tackled by a Federal Protective Service police officer, according to DHS. He was taken into custody. 26 Federal Plaza has long been a target of extremist acts of terror. Today, the extremist was brought here. Several people suffered minor injuries, including 1 civilian and 2 government employees. There's a picture right there. He did say he was targeting the building and did say he was okay with people getting hurt, whether they were federal employees or civilians, according to Barnacle. The NYPD said it was looking at the cart the suspect wheeled with him, which had a sign reading "ICE off our streets." Officials say that leading up to the incident, Arabica took a subway train from Harlem down to the Penn Station area, then walked down and stayed overnight in the vicinity of the Holland Tunnel on the street. They say he went to the area near 26 Federal Plaza around 5 a.m., then ventured to the spot where he started the fire around 8 a.m. Officials' charges in the incident have not yet been filed. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani called the incident deeply disturbing. I'm relieved no one was seriously injured and that a suspect's in custody. Mamdani said, "My team is in touch with the NYPD and we will support the federal investigation. Our administration will continue to ensure that every New Yorker is safe in their city and hold accountable any who threaten that." The FBI New York Joint Terrorism Task Force is investigating the incident. Yes, nobody got hurt. A little bit of property damage, or nobody got seriously hurt, I should say. But you have to wonder what the motivations are of people like that, especially with ICE officials terrorizing people, citizens, even like legal people, illegal folks, anybody. It seems like they wear these masks. They don't have insignia on. They don't have their names. It's to me, and this is my personal opinion, it's a modern day Gestapo. And unfortunately, you're probably going to see more and more people react to this kind of thing because it doesn't seem like the government's doing anything to rein these folks in. What do you guys think?
You know, when you have no trust, you have to wonder, is this some poor sap that got incited into doing this just to keep it in the media and to make Mamdani look bad and to make New York look bad and that kind of crap? I wouldn't put it past anybody. Or is this a guy who on his own volition just said, "I'm sick of this and I've got nothing left to lose. I'm going to make a stand." I don't know. But you know, when you have so many people in a country, including military members or former military members, veterans, who all hate a particular agency, you'd think they'd look into it.
Yeah, you would think. But up is down, down is up. What do you think, Willie?
I'm not. It's not beyond a reason. It's not beyond question that a Reichstag fire could be taking place. That this is how Hitler was able to consolidate power through this to what was perceived, what people agreed was like a fake fire. Fire set up by a left-wing agitator, quote unquote, during his early reigns. And I'm not going to say that Trump is Hitler, but he's Pinochet. He's Mussolini light. That's bad enough. So I wouldn't put it past this administration to try some shenanigans like that. That's just my opinion.
No, I hear
and
you.
like Lainie said, to make Mamdani look bad and everything, because we're about ready to embark in a whole new Red Scare. Palmer raised 1919, 1920, McCarthyism in the 50s, and we got people who are nostalgic for that shit. So that's what's happening.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to the head cheese in charge, Trumpy, as Trump media reportedly mulling fee for first access to social media posts. What, Trump's trying to make money off people? That's new. So Trumpy's social media company is reportedly considering charging a $100. I guess that's
$100,000. No, it's $100,000.
They took the extra zero off. What's up with that? So $100,000 monthly fee for priority access to his social media posts. Yeah, good luck with that. But the prospect has raised major ethical concerns, with critics denouncing the idea as a barrier to government transparency and a means for Trump to profit from the presidency. There we go. The news agency Reuters indicated on Friday that Trump Media and Technology Group, which owns the website Truth Social, basically the Republican version of Twitter, has discussed charging financial traders and firms a steep fee for early access to Trump's posts. A lower tier fee of $60,000 a month was also reportedly discussed for firms that sign up for a 3-year plan. The British newspaper, the Financial Times, also reported similar details. As president of one of the world's largest economies, Trump has the power to move markets with his statements. Economists say his remarks on social media about new policies like tariffs or international conflicts can spur changes in global financial prospects, but pushback to the Truth Social fee proposal was swift. Trump has long garnered criticism for leveraging the power of his office for personal benefit, and ethics experts characterize any fee as a threat to the functioning of U.S. democracy. He's selling expedited privileged access to information about what he's doing as president, said Kathleen Clark, an expert in conflict of interest rules at Washington University School of Law. She told the AP it's yet more brazen corruption and improper exploitation of government power to enrich himself. Yes. Trump has made frequent use of social media during his time in office. During his first term, he was an avid user on the social media platform Twitter, now X. But his false claims about the 2020 presidential election and the subsequent attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021 prompted several platforms to suspend his account. Trump responded by investing in his own media company instead, and he owns a majority stake in the Trump Media and Technology Group. Truth Social is one of its signature products, and Trump has used the social media platform almost exclusively since his 2021 departure from Twitter. He frequently turns to Truth Social to announce everything from attacks on Iran to changes in trade policy to how many hamburgers he had that day. I'm sorry, I added that last part, but it's probably true. Let's be real. During the U.S.-Israel war on Iran, Trump's social media posts frequently prompted dramatic swings in the global energy markets, which suffered as Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz to commercial traffic. A social media post from the president announcing a 90-day pause on new tariffs on April 9th last year also saw financial indexes rise sharply. The Trump Media and Technology Group announced on Thursday it would offer a paid-for licensed data feed dubbed Truth API for banks and trading firms, granting them privileged access to the website's 10 most influential accounts, of which Trump's is by far the most prominent. Democratic lawmakers were among those who criticized the announcement, with Senator Ron Wyden saying that it would make Wall Street traders rich along with the Trump family. And I believe that is the whole point of that, and probably the whole point of Trump's presidency as a whole. Make money, grab, get out, that kind of thing. Unless he tries to go for a third term.
I heard this story on NPR, making my breakfast, getting my coffee, and I nearly just, every time I think that I can no longer be shocked by Trump, he proves me wrong. I guess it's keeping me young.
Yeah. Keeping you on your toes.
But I mean, the idea of basically saying, I'm going to give advance access to my content, which is, has significant economic, geopolitical significance, domestic significance, to those who can afford to pay $100,000 a month, or if they sign on for 3 years, $60,000 a month. Wow.
Who are these fools that's going to pay that?
Traders.
Yeah, that's true. Willie, you think this is another money-making scheme of his? Or is that just Captain Obvious?
His name is Trump. He's a comic book genius. He's like a comic book criminal or a cartoon criminal come to life, or a bad Saturday Night Live sketch come to life. It's hard to decide sometimes. I have seen plenty of corruptions. We've seen it all through our years, presidential, legislatively, anybody who's in politics, we've seen all kinds of levels of corruption. But the level of corruption that this clown had, I'm speechless.
I was speechless. I was like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you just proved it.
Yeah, I mean, what do you say to this?
Yeah, there's a song by the Smiths called "This Joke Isn't Funny Anymore." The first Trump presidency, it was mean tweets. It was kind of funny. No, the joke is no longer, the laughter effect is no longer, now that the Heritage Foundation helped him to become a full fascist now. So
But and it's like wholly insider trading, Batman.
Yeah.
Granted, Congress has already set a great example in this regard. But,
Yeah.
but it's like, wow, okay.
Well, there's insider trading, and then there's actually manipulating what's going on in the world to benefit you. You know, the Iran war is a perfect example of that, right? He'll say, we're going to bomb the crap out of them. And then gas and oil prices go up, stock market goes down. And then he says, nah, I'm just messing with you. We're going to do peace. And then, the reverse happens. And what does he do? He makes money off of that every time. So,
what's sad is that, since he's a cult of personality, he could have used his cult of personality for the good, to be the anti-war president like he promised to be. I mean, that's the biggest promise he broke. I mean, and I didn't support him, but I figured that he was going to be a little bit better on foreign policy than Biden. And he's horrible, I actually thought there was going to be an Iran peace treaty. I thought that that he was going to be a wild card a little bit. I voted for Joe Stein, but I was expecting some peace negotiations to take place between Russia and Ukraine. He's like George W. Bush on steroids.
Yeah, he's given Zelensky he's going to let them use the license to make Patriot missiles. So he's not going to give them Patriot missiles anymore. He said, make your own. And when they try to make their own, Russia's just going to say, nope, can't do that. Bomb, bomb, bomb. And so basically he just kind of put Zelensky out to dry in that respect. But it's talking about fuel and gas and stuff like that. Let's talk about natural gas for just a second. And I don't mean from that chili macaroni I had yesterday. That was some natural. Well, anyway. So report exposes decades of climate polluters pushing the fraud of clean natural gas. And in this, they get the natural gas by the fracking. And the fracking is how you get that with the and you push the water underground and it breaks the rocks, and it also causes earthquakes. That's a fun little addition to that. So gas companies knew about the climate harms of natural gas much earlier than previously thought and downplayed them to the public, according to a new trove of documents unearthed by an environmental activist group on Monday. A report released Monday by the Center for Climate Integrity, the CCI, not to be confused with CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival, found that much like big oil had deceived the public about the planet heating impact of oil, gas companies that pushed their product as a clean alternative had downplayed natural gas's production of methane, a greenhouse gas that is about 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide over the first 20 years. The report, which was created through an examination of newly discovered documents and confidential reports, as well as expert interviews, determines that the industry was aware of these harms as far back as 1968, when a report commissioned by the American Petroleum Institute found that methane in the atmosphere was connected to, quote, oil fields and gas distribution system leakage. Big oil and the gas industry knew decades ago that methane was a harmful climate pollutant, but they manufactured the myth of clean natural gas in order to protect and expand their business with no regard for public health or the climate impacts that they knew would result, said Richard Wiles, president of CCI. The report examines how the American Gas Association, the AGA, an industry group representing many industry giants, hired top public relations firms, hey, how about that, to change the nation's perceptions of gas as a dangerous pollutant. Despite acknowledging behind the scenes that they lacked clear, simple, substantiating facts to vouch for its safety. What? No proof? Yeah, there's a theme that's been permeated into society these days. Industry ad campaigns sought to associate gas with nature, simplicity, and cleanliness. One campaign emphasized that it was cleaner than coal and created virtually no emissions. The industry also created its own research institute to peddle studies to the public that disrupted a growing consensus around the dangers of methane by emphasizing the uncertainty of the findings and casting doubt on their connection to natural gas. All the while, internal industry research was finding that methane was not only a major driver of the greenhouse effect, but was being released in far greater quantities than previously known, to the point where it was just as dirty, if not dirtier, than coal. That's pretty dirty. Despite this, the industry helped to keep the myth of clean natural gas alive for decades. In the 1990s, the industry funded and provided much of the underlying data for an EPA study, concluding that the amount of methane produced by natural gas was low enough that it could be considered a bridge fuel to reduce emissions. Though later research would demonstrate that the study had vastly underestimated the amount of methane being emitted by gas producers, the damage had been done, and the number was cited by the industry for decades to promote its product as a green alternative. According to a poll conducted by CCI with data for progress, 50% of likely voters still believe that natural gas is a form of clean energy, probably because of that natural part. For some reason, they think that. The fraud of clean natural gas has been essential to the industry's success in the marketplace, and the idea that gas is climate friendly has been at the heart of the rapid expansion of gas infrastructure over the last 2 decades, according to the report. The CCI has argued that fossil fuel companies should be required to compensate the public for decades of deception that had contributed to the climate crisis. Officials who continue to justify expanding natural gas reliance by still claiming it's clean or safe for the climate are using the same script, a manipulated science that gas executives and their PR teams concocted decades ago. Weil said, "It's time that these profoundly dangerous lies are finally put to rest. By exposing the gas industry's deception, we can get one step closer to accountability." Now, you have this going on with these gas companies too, but you also have natural methane going into the atmosphere because of frozen tundra up north that holds in that methane is starting to release it. You have methane in the oceans. As the oceans heat up, that methane tends to be released too, and it's very dangerous stuff and can lead, if you want Venus, that's how you get Venus. It'll trap in all that heat, and the next thing we're
cooked.
Planet. We're cooked, as the kids like to say.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's cheerful.
Well, think about it. It's like the oil industries, they lied for years. The cigarette industry lied for years too, saying, doctors smoke cigarettes, so it must be good. And then we found out, not so much. It was like, we're starting to find these revelations about information about things that, in the short term seem to be all well and good. But when you look at the big picture, not so good.
Yeah.
So kind of like propaganda, right, Willie?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to thank Willy Bragg for making me aware of this. This is why we follow each other on Facebook and social media, because we can share information about all this. And as soon as I saw Willie share, I said, can we get you on the show to talk about it? And
this is
stuff that I was not really aware of. And a little bit, but I wasn't that aware of it. And it's important. So
it's about the government propagandizing you instead of sending the propaganda elsewhere. And Willie, you want to kind of fill us in a little bit on the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it started off as the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, which was a Cold War response on providing information or disinformation or propaganda abroad. Basically was to do that, and it was sort of like an alternative to military conquest. And so basically the media, educational institutions, labor unions, whatever. And the central thing was to fight communism. That's what it was. It was basically to fight this new boogeyman called communism. And and the thing is that they were not really supposed to do this domestically here in the United States. And to make a long story short, in 2012, I think it was the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act of 2013, that that provision under Obama, of all people, to put an end to it, where you can kind of do that kind of BS domestically, and that's what we're stuck with today. And if it's done by Obama, I tell people, don't think that Trump would use it. He would use it in a heartbeat. And so, and they're already propagandizing against the Democrat socialists all around the country these days, trying to create a new red scare. And so I tell people, be careful. Our civil liberties are going down the toilet way more than they already are.
Yeah. When I was looking into this, what I saw was that when like Voice of America and Radio Free Europe were launched, the idea was that their content would not be disseminated in the United States. It was strictly supposed to be overseas, and that the U.S. government was not supposed to propagandize its own citizens. They were going to put what they call a firewall between that media and what we get here in the U.S. That firewall was never absolute. Anybody with a shortwave radio, for example, could pick up Voice of America or Radio Free Europe and use it that way. And then, of course, when the internet came around, that information could also easily be shared. And so there was the Modernization Act that loosened it up. And I guess last year, Thomas Massey introduced a bill to roll back the modernization, so that, that the Voice of America and that kind of material would only be accessible by government officials and what he called accredited media. So that makes me a little nervous. I'm going to tell you right now, when they start talking about giving special rights to accredited media, there can be that's its own level of control. And that does concern me, because I also think that U.S. citizens should have the right to examine what our country is putting out to others. And so I think that we've got two significant concerns here that are in tension, but they both, I think, have to be addressed.
Agreed. Agreed. And so the whole idea of the whole idea of a free society is not to have state media, right. And we kind of do have it de facto with the mainstream media, but it just makes it so much more so with what happened with the act in 2013, 2012, when it was with the new provisions by the Obama administration. Shame on Barack Obama for that, by the way.
Mm-hmm. I know you go into YouTube, for example, and if you see something from Press TV or the BBC or something, one of these state media organizations, it will be labeled as that. They put that label on it. I would kind of like to see anything that's so-called mainstream media here in the States maybe labeled by its top sponsors or shareholders. That could be kind of useful. But are we being subjected to an illusion of media purity here? And that is a concern that I have and continue to have. When we look at what's happening with the FCC, cracking down now, trying to mess with Disney, but that is also coming out and saying, hey, we will try to review, we can accelerate the review of the renewal of your broadcasting licenses if we don't like what you're putting out there, or even going so far to suggest music that should be played on radio stations celebrating the 250th year here. So have we crossed into an area where it becomes impossible to separate government propaganda from the media? What do you think, Willie?
Well, I think to reverse it for the better, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a different makeup of the courts. It's going to have to have people, I would say, whatever political party or ideology one holds, they'll have to have somebody with some libertarian impulses like Thomas Massey to try to do anything that could be done to reverse this situation. And whether we see that day or not happens remains to be seen. But people need to be made aware, sure. and demand, transparency and all of that. big worry is independent media, people like
Yep.
us. They could shut us down. Disinformation.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to ask you about that, about independent media and how, like, you have your MS Nows and your Fox News who cater to particular parts of the political spectrum, but you also seem to see that in the independent ranks. This is Kate has a good point here. She says, I remember when the NDAA was re-signed under Obama, and Tom Hartman listeners were calling in to complain about the resigning. Tom told callers he will not hold a circular firing squad for the DNC and their platforms. And I know it seems like team sports, but it also seems like, at the time, Obama was president, and instead of calling him out on that, it seems like you have these independent channels and journalists who take these positions with the particular person in power. I know it's for various reasons. One could be for financial reasons, but do you think there are more and more independent channels now that are pushing this propaganda as well for their particular flavor of leaders?
Propaganda for the U.S. interests and everything. In independent media, I don't want to mention any names. So there's a big network. There's a big network hosted by a Turkish man and an Armenian American that pushed the Ukraine war agenda, and they seem to have hostility toward people like Julian Assange in years past too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So it's disturbing. I remember back during the original Trump administration, there was an issue at one point with Voice of America, because at Voice of America, even though it's state media that was targeted toward people overseas as a form of diplomacy, but also, of course, reputation management and political management. Strangely enough, they were supposed to be editorial independence. They're supposed to have some editorial independence, which I never trust that phrase. I mean, every organization will talk about we're editorially independent. Well, no, you're not. You're dependent on somebody. Somebody's providing the money. Somebody's providing the platform. Somebody's holding the license or the business license or the bank accounts or the purse strings, whatever. But I remember there was an issue at that point with the Trump administration doing an overreach into the Voice of America, and there was a conflict there. So this is not a new conflict. This is something that's been coming up in recent years with Voice of America. It is, as I said, it's extremely disturbing that we're kind of in this predicament at this point, where I understand Massey's position on this, and I'm not crazy about us having our own bureau that controls media. That's why I'm calling myself the 2-minute hater. If you remember in 1984, everybody was so propagandized that they would go to the movie theaters to have a 2-minute hate and hate Emmanuel Goldstein, who the people believe Orwell based on Trotsky. And to have the idea of media bureaus in the United States that are trying to manipulate opinion abroad is bad enough, but having it happen right here is also very disturbing. But at the same time, just because you have an acknowledged propaganda bureau in a country doesn't mean that it isn't happening all over. If people let their guards down because they say, well, this is independent, this is not a government entity here, we know that's BS. We think about Operation Mockingbird, and that was a Washington Post thing that was going on, and that was CIA. So is this potentially just giving us a false sense of security? Oh, Thomas Massey's looking out for us. But we've got a long history in this country of people being manipulated. The so-called privately owned media or non-governmental media that's been putty in the hands of the deep state.
Yeah, I totally agree. even in the Biden administration, they tried passing this disinformation governance board, which was called
Oh, I remember that.
Ministry of Truth. Yeah, and
the Ministry of Truth. Yeah.
and I was listen. I don't sit there and praise Republicans as a general rule, but they were right to crap a brick over this situation.
Yeah.
And I heard a lot of liberals kind of like, I don't know, and just they had this I know nothing, I hear nothing, I see nothing attitude toward toward the Ministry of Truth. And I would tell these liberals, I'd be like, what if Trump gets back in there? Or at the time, I would have said, what if something worse than Trump, DeSantis, gets in there and this thing exists? You think they will tear it apart, dismantle it? No, they would go and use it way more abusively than Biden and Harris would. And I have no confidence in Biden or Harris, but Trump would be worse with it. So with DeSantis, even a garden variety Republican. Like I don't know what would pass for a moderate Republican these days, if there's such a thing. But a president, Liz Cheney, would sure as hell use it. So people just need to be they need to be made aware of these things, and they need to react and not act like, oh, everything sucks. Life goes on, because that attitude is going to end up turning us way more authoritarian than we are on with this path we're on right now.
I think we need to be prepared to pivot. I know that in Chicago, for example, there's now a newspaper, and forgive me, I forget the name, that is only in print. It is not online. You cannot find it online. You have to, I think you have to subscribe, or you can find it at one of the places where they leave it. It's an independent newspaper. You have places like Q4 that exploit, not in a bad way, but they exploit a loophole in FCC regulations to have a legal but unlicensed AM radio station in the area. You can stream, but if you are in the area and you're near one of their transmitters, and it's very low power, but it's several miles, and in a place like Chicago that's population dense, that works. You can tune in and listen to their independent media. But I do think that there has to be a willingness on the part of journalists, and I include so-called citizen journalists in that, as well as people who are interested in maintaining the press, free press in this country, free access to information. There has to be a willing to pivot and to use every possible means of disseminating news, information, and opinion. And that can be broadcast, that can be in print, that can be internet, that can be text message, that can be old school BBSs. But I do think that this is a time for people to be exploiting and understanding these means, finding ways to get the word out, and being willing to pull back in one area and go into another. Because, again, at the federal level now, we seem to be between a rock and a hard place.
Absolutely. And, I don't know if we can vote our way out of this. I mean,
what options at the local level? I think we might. I do think at the local level, that's a possibility, at least in some places. At the federal level, forget about it.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Even 7, 8 years ago, I would have said that I would not trust even a President Bernie Sanders, and when we all like Tulsi Gabbard, a Vice President Tulsi Gabbard in charge of this. And in today's context, I wouldn't even want a President Breonna Joy Gray and Vice President Max Blumenthal to do the same thing either. And we're talking about people that I trust more than your average vote, politicians out there. But that's just my point in principle. I just do not want to see this kind of power in the hands of politicians, no matter what ideological direction they're in, because it leads down to a bad road.
Yeah. And we touched on this earlier, Lainie did, about finding out these independent journalists or whoever follow the money, right? Yeah. See who's backing these people. I don't think a lot of people do that. There's a lot of people out there, I think they have really good intentions, but they want to believe in something good so bad that they're not willing to put in the legwork to actually find out if this is actual news or if it's propaganda, right? We've heard tale about a lot of these influencers and whatnot that are getting $7,000 checks allegedly for influencing certain things, and those are just the influencers, but that doesn't mean that your quote unquote news programs aren't doing that as well. So I want full disclosure. We are not backed by any billionaires or millionaires, probably a guy down on the corner who sells cigarettes for like $2.50 a piece. That's probably the only guy. Other than that, we're free and clear, and you can look us up. You can look up our backgrounds and find out that no, we're not backed by anybody like that. We're not pushing an agenda for any government or anything. We're trying to get out the truth, and we need more. Not trying to toot our own horn, but we need more truth tellers out there. But we also need the public to be a little more Johnny on the spot and do their own research into these people that they're claiming to be the journalists for them, when in fact it may not be the case.
And to your point, Uncle Warren, there's also the issue of who gets pushed in the online algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put out some really good content, good production values, cross all of those T's, dot all those I's for putting out a good show or a good content, whether it's a podcast or YouTube show or something, a Substack. But the algorithm that pushes you out is not under your control. And that's something else that people have to deal with independently. And that's why I am also saying you can't rely on just one medium. You can't just rely on digital mediums. There are other things that you may need to do if this is what you want to do. But then we come into the issues you point out. There's money and time. Do you have the money to be able to take the time to go and do and pound the pavement and put up, say, flyers in coffee shops? Mm-hmm. Saying, hey, we have this show, or take out an ad in the local newspaper. Hey, we've got this show, tune in. And that can be very effective. But if you don't have the money or the time to do that, again, you're going to see some voices that are going to be very marginalized.
Well, if you think about it, with the rise of independent media, again, it started with the Turkish American and Armenian American co-hosts that at one time did very good work. Mm-hmm. And I do think they're compromised these days. And a slew of other independent media that came out during the late Bush, Cheney years, Obama years, providing news stories that were not that the mainstream media, whether it's MSNBC as it was called that time, which was marginally critical of Obama from the left. I give them credit from back then, or Fox News or CNN, which is everything to everybody. They try to be all things to all people, what have you. The independent media were actually gaining a foothold that I would say that right-wing talk radio used to have a monopoly on. And I think that's why the algorithms got very busy. YouTube and all social media decided, oh no, we had to put the stop to this. So it is almost impossible to provide, and I'm going to be tribalistic saying this, like left-wing online content and social media. They have done everything they could to suppress these voices. And there's a lot of programs out there, like you said, they're high quality programs and all that, and they're heavily suppressed. They should have more than 400 subscribers. They should have more than 700 subscribers, or what have you. Or even they should have, in some cases, those who have 20,000, they should really be up to 80,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's done by design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to guide the narrative that they want done. You always have to look, like if you take YouTube, for example, it's not just YouTube, it's Google, but it's not just Google, it's Alphabet. You have those layers, and then with those layers, you have different priorities as to what they're they want shown on their products like that. Like you said, like small channels that are doing good work are not going to do very well. But if you get a channel where people are yelling and screaming at each other and not really doing anything productive except, I'm screaming my point of view and I'm screaming my point of view, and it's not a conversation. It's like reality TV. These platforms will latch onto that and they go, ooh, spicy. This is going to do well. Let's give them a little more sunshine than these other channels that are just doing this plain old boring, telling you the truth stuff that, it's like medicine, it's like, it tastes awful, but it's good for you. Well, certain medicines, that is, the thing, but yeah, it just seems like, it's up to the people. Now you can't, what is it? This old saying, you can buy them books, you can take them to school, but you can't make them learn anything. They have to do it on them for their own, and they have to be inspired to find out, to disseminate things for themselves and not rely on pundits and stuff to tell them their opinions on things, because that's what they do. They listen to these pundits. Oh, that sounds good to me, and then the next thing you know, they're throwing all this other bullshit in there that's not true, or it's just race baiting or whatever, and they're like, yeah, well, that's my guy, I gotta support him, and then that's part of the problem too.
Also, what's going on right now, if you want, and we're all been aware about the Madami effect. Again, I'm not trying to be I'm going to be tribalistic for a second on the left. It was with the wave of the success story of DSA. And I've been a member of DSA in the past, and I got some criticism of DSA today. They're not perfect, but this whole demonization, again, they're going to use every tool they can to bring back the Red Scare, and yeah. I'm trying to warn people to watch out. Yeah, I'm trying to warn people to watch out, and I tell even the conservatives this. I said, don't think that Trump could be when Trump is gone, that it's just going to be just MAGA forever. They're going to be some mediocre Democrat by my standards back in the White House occupying Congress. They're not really going to do anything for the left, but they're going to make a half-ass effort to punish some of the more obnoxious voices of MAGA, or go after the most obnoxious ICE people, what have you. And then they're going to act like they're persecuted or what have you. And then in some cases, their free speech will be suppressed. And as much as I hate these people on the right, I do believe that I do believe in free speech, even for such folks. Yeah. So they're going to get what's coming to them if they keep doing this.
People need to understand that you are never when it comes to tyrants or sociopaths, or however you want to define these morally defective people, you are never the exception. People like Thomas Cromwell learned that the hard way with Henry VIII. And, again, you are never the exception. You can think that you're the exception when you are in favor. But once that tyrant or that morally defective person decides that you are no longer of any use or gets angry with you, you're in real trouble.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the Red Scare. I mean, yeah. At the time of the 50s, you had a very popular president, Eisenhower, in office, right? You had the Senator Joe McCarthy, who was spearheading all of this. Hence where McCarthyism comes from, for those who didn't know. But you were limited in your amount of media that was projecting all this, right? You had television, radio, newspapers, magazines. And now today you have a very unpopular president. People will say, oh, no, I like it. Well, you really don't. You don't. But you have an unpopular president, and you have all kinds of media out there pushing this stuff. So it seems like today, like, what was it? Mike Johnson asking for $350 billion to fight communism in the United States. You have Marco Rubio, meeting with the heads of state of 60 other countries saying we got to fight this communism. And it's not so much communism per se, but it's also the social aspects of what communism can provide, right? You don't necessarily have to have communism. If you have socialism, and that's what scares the hell out of these people, is the fact, not that the fact that they actually do good things for people, the fact that socialism, and I said this yesterday on Abby Dew's show, that socialism puts a very, very big magnifying glass on capitalism and shows you the warts and all of how terrible it can be to people, right? But these people are going to defend this government to no end because they benefit from it, right? And it's up to the people who don't benefit from it to rise up, get the right information, scrutinize your news sources, and then come together, because we're being divided on purpose, so we can't come together. And as people start coming together, that's what's scaring the shit out of these people.
Yeah, and this is why we have culture wars, meaningless culture wars that that people end up, wanting to cancel each other for, and everything like that, and just. And where I stand on this is I may hate everything that the right stand for, and they may want me to be exterminated, but in spite of them wanting to exterminate me, I want them to have a living wage unionized job and universal health care, generous paid vacation time, a nice pension. They'll be able to send their little hooligans into college at low cost or free. I want that for them. I want them to stay the hell away from me. But I want that for them. But they want me exterminated. So, because I believe everybody should be like a normal country. United States should be a normal, like the UK and France and Sweden, where, oh my God, healthcare is actually free for everybody. Oh no.
Canada has free healthcare. Now Mexico has, and it's the dumbass sandwich, right? You have the smart stuff on top, and then the meat is just like, a parody of what true freedom should be, for sure.
And some of these people, they love the genocide that Israel commits, but the one thing that's good about them, free healthcare for people inside the country. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, priorities, right?
Yeah.
Willie, are you able to hang out with us for a little while longer?
I am. But I got to take a soft bathroom break.
Okay, I understand. Is that code? Is that street lingo, Willie? We don't do that kind of thing around here. If you're talking about drugs, no, I'm kidding. No, go ahead. We'll pop you out, and when you come back, I got to do the
number one.
It is number one in our hearts. All right, buddy. We'll see. We'll see you in a little bit.
All right.
Hey, we'll put him back there. Hopefully he doesn't stink up our backstage back there. We just had it cleaned, Willie.
But you destroyed it with the chili mac, remember?
Boy, that talk about a nightmare on Elm Street. My God. You would wish for Freddy Krueger over that. So we got a new thing, prize keepers. These basically consumer news you can use and watch out kind of stuff as we wait on the king to get back from his throne. Right. So this one is grocery outlets getting into facial recognition tech. Remember, we were talking to you about the cameras and shopping carts a couple of weeks ago, I believe, or last week, I think. Now you got this stuff. So grocery retailers have tried facial recognition technology before, and it has been met with controversy, a lawsuit, and a suspension. Grocery outlet has now entered the fray, installing the tech at some California stores, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. Some locations have posted signs on front doors that read face matching software being used to prevent shoplifting. The sign features a QR code where customers can find out more about the privacy policy behind the tech, which Sapphire Guard is setting up. Sapphire Guard collects facial images of shoppers when they enter stores, along with security camera footage and information from individual retailers about those suspected of theft, violence, or other illegal conduct. The company maintains a watch list of people caught on surveillance footage committing crimes and sends alert to retailers when offenders enter a store. Nonprofit news outlet Mission Local found those signs at locations in Pleasant Hill and Concord and 2 stores in San Francisco. Grocery outlet has not yet responded to a request for comment for this article. In early 2024, the now defunct Rite Aid reached a settlement with the Federal Trade Commission that banned the pharmacy retailer from using facial recognition tech for 5 years, following charges that the company misused the biometric tech in hundreds of stores. Wow, that's a shock there. Humans misusing stuff. The FTC said in a December 19th announcement that from 2012 to 2020, Rite Aid used artificial intelligence-based surveillance to identify customers who engaged in shoplifting and other problematic behavior in its stores. The tech erroneously identified some customers as shoplifters, prompting Rite Aid employees in some cases to follow customers around the store, search them, call police, and accuse them of shoplifting, according to the FTC. The agency added that the false identifications disproportionately affected people of color. Hey, there's another shock.
Imagine
you never
that.
see that. Yeah, I know, right? In 2024, an Illinois woman sued Target for using biometric data without obtaining written permission or providing shoppers with advance notice that the company was collecting biometric data. Illinois Biometric Information Privacy Act makes it unlawful for a company to, quote, collect, capture, purchase, receive through trade, or otherwise obtain a person's or a customer's biometric identifiers, biometric information, unless it first informs the subject in writing that a biometric identifier or biometric information is being collected or stored, informs the subject in writing of the specific purpose and length of term for which a biometric identifier or biometric information is being collected and used, and receives a written release by the subject of the biometric identifier or biometric information. And just kind of a sidebar here, this kind of reminds me of these flock cameras. I saw a James Lee video recently talking about that, how, you know, they're selling these things to cities as safety and to reduce crime, where in fact they're being misused by, you know, by some people are spying on their exes or,
Yeah.
you know, girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever. And, you know, when you have the human element in there, and speaking of the human element, welcome back, King. You know, that kind of stuff is gonna happen. What they should have is right outside the door, say, look, we're gonna take pictures of you and stuff, so that as someone who's wanting to go in there and use their store, they could see that and go, well, hell no, I'm not going to do that. But you don't see that. You don't really see that kind of signage unless you're actually in the store, if you see it at all.
Yeah. And, you know, I remember many years ago, in fact, a couple of times, I interviewed Ron Placone on Civically Minded, the comedian and activist. And this was his big thing, was the real concern about the use of facial recognition, which has real problems and continues to have real problems, not only for the stalking reason that you've mentioned, but oftentimes it's just not that accurate. And in fact, it is most accurate with white adult males. It is less effective with women of any age or race, as well as people of color, as well as children. Yeah. And yeah, it's kind of reminding me now of the so-called AI detectors, you know, that people are trying to use now, which are also proving to be highly inaccurate. They're trying to outsource what used to be something that human beings did. And it wasn't perfect, but it's, you know, we have these expensive systems that people will rely on. Well, that's what the system showed us. Well, the system is inaccurate. This particular technology is not accurate, and it can cause all kinds of problems for people who may not be guilty of shoplifting or anything else. Yes, I understand a store wants to maintain security, doesn't want people starting fights or antagonizing or sexually harassing customers, and that does happen in stores. They don't want people shoplifting, but if you're relying on an unreliable technology, in the end, that doesn't serve anybody. And if that technology can be misused either for training AI bots, that's a possibility, or for stalking purposes, that's another issue.
Yeah. And you're starting to see, like I said, with the flock cameras, people can have found ways to hack into those things and get your private data and information.
Yeah.
About the, and you're just like, you're just going in to get like a bottle of aspirin or something.
Yeah.
And you the last thing you want to know, just because you're in a public, you're in a place where that has cameras already. And now you have this stuff where there's actual facial recognition, the data and stuff. And, God knows what happens when that is leaked out, or hacked and stolen like that. I know you got a pretty face, Willie, and you don't mind the facial recognition, but what do you think? Do you think this is like these facial recognition in these stores with the flock cameras and all this stuff? Do you think we're heading into 1984 country, or are we just already like chest deep in it?
My slogan is make 1984 fiction again. So yes, it's just one more aspect of creeping totalitarianism. And as I said earlier, before we came on the air, I'm not an economic libertarian, but I have a strong libertarian impulse in me, and I take right to privacy very seriously. So, I don't like anything that's going to create more of a surveillance state than we already are. We're incredibly too much of a surveillance state as it is.
Yeah,
I mean, in some ways, I guess some ways there's some crimes that have been reduced, and I'm certainly not pro-crime, I mean,
right, yeah.
But there's got to be a better way to do this than have us all constantly monitored. And there are people that would like to see everybody monitored in society.
Yeah.
Well, you are Batman, so you would be anti-crime. So oh shit, I wasn't supposed to say that. Sorry.
And I've been known to break mirrors, by the way. So
me too. That's why I'm just like, I'll go right up to a camera and go, ah.
I don't even have to do that to a camera. Camera sees me. A mirror sees me. It has legs and arms and runs away.
Self-deprecating humor at its finest. Well, if you're not angry enough, let's talk about water bills, shall we? It would be a swamp. Warren man, this is in Michigan, I believe. Is that right? Warren man faces eviction after water bill jumps from $40 to $580 at manufactured home. What is this about? Yes, it is Warren, Michigan. Very good. For years, a Warren man watched his water bill stay steady, about $40 a month at his home in the Lafayette Place manufactured housing community. Then out of nowhere in May, it spiked to more than $580 with no clear explanation. He couldn't cover it. Now he's staring down an eviction notice with the help of his tenant union, Mr. Mike's Neighborhood. He reached out to Local 4. Local 4 has been tracking water billing issues at manufactured housing communities across the region. Albert Spear showed Local 4 his water use ledger that dates back years. In April, he was charged $41.03 for water and sewage. Then suddenly in May, it went up to $581.26. How many swimming pools would that be? Local 4's Kyla Russell asked Spear. Anywhere from 4 to 5, 16 foot, 5.5 feet swimming pools of usage of water, he said. Spear has lived at his Lafayette Place home for 6 years. He said he's paid his water bill on time for years. That's until May. $581.26, he said when asked what May's bill was. I was like, this is totally wrong, he said. He asked how a bill could rocket from around $40 to over $580 in 4 weeks. That's about $540 more than April. He said they told him there was a leak. The old leak. They said it was on my behalf. They didn't say where. He said, with that amount of water, the whole front of my house or the back of my house or my whole yard would be a swamp. Exactly. That's a butt ton of water. What would cause the issue? Spear said, he said all your faucets in your home and your outside spigot would have to be on to generate that much water 24/7 for a month. But he says he couldn't get straight answers and he couldn't afford to pay it all at once. So he paid half, hoping the rest would be resolved and that his money would come back. Instead, he says another letter showed up. This one came with a different demand, and they had you either pay it or you and your occupants can move out, he said of the letter. What does that do to you financially? Well, it made me I had to get rid of stuff I had. Since then, he also hasn't gotten a June or July's bill. Local 4 reached out to Sun Communities on Thursday to ask any response and have not heard back. Great if they credit my account, I would be happy, he said. But and then there's information there about the thing. Yeah, exactly. And as someone who has dealt with water leaks before, that is an incredible amount of water. Unless he has a sinkhole under his house, there's no way that should be happening.
Yeah. Again, this is going back to civically minded days at Hard Lens. I covered mobile manufactured home parks. And there's a lot of people don't know about these parks. First of all, remember back in the day, you used to call them mobile homes. In point of fact, most of them are not mobile at all. Right. They really are fixed in place. Yes, you can technically move them, but you have to pay for a separate permit. Typically, you also have to have a car. You have to get a special truck to move them. You have to have a car with signals and lights in back to warn people off. I mean, it's a real process to move these things, and a lot of folks don't have the money to do that sort of thing. So when a person faces eviction out of a manufactured home park, that is serious, because the person may own their building, their structure, their home, but they don't own the land. They are leasing the land. But practically speaking, if they get evicted, it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to move their home. So they are rendered homeless. They lose that home, which the park could turn around and then rent out to somebody else. How convenient. How incredibly convenient. And also, because of the way these covenants and the leases are written, the manufactured home parks don't always take responsibility with failures in their own systems. So if there is some kind of a problem with their water systems or whatnot, they're not taking responsibility. They're throwing it back on the tenant. And if the tenant, and when I say the tenant, it could possibly be the homeowner who's just leasing the spot, they may not have a lot of recourse against the manufactured home association or business that owns that land. So these folks are incredibly vulnerable in these situations. And the other questions that I have is, okay, now if you're coming into areas that may have data centers coming up, is this a further land grab that you jack up the water prices for people who are living in manufactured home parks? None of them can afford it. They lose their spots. They lose their land. They have to leave. Very cheap way, very quick way to quickly acquire that land for something else potentially. And this is why I'm an advocate for much stronger protections for those who live in manufactured home parks, including things like right of first refusal. If the park is going to be sold, can the tenants band together and purchase it? Stricter controls on the companies that own and manage these to ensure that they're doing their part and spending their money that they are taking in rents toward managing systems like the water systems, and giving these folks who may own their properties but are leasing that ground some of the tenant protections that you might see for those who are in standard rental units. These are just some of the changes that have to happen. It would be great to see more cooperative manufactured home parks. But this is one example, and I don't know what's going on with this guy. For there to be a $40 to over a $500 increase for a month of water, that's
that water talk had me had to make me tinkle.
seems to be catching around here. But yeah, we're Gen Xers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we're at that age where you gotta go. But you see what's going on here, and this is a group of people that I think does require our attention. And we have all of these very negative connotations with so-called trailer parks. I don't think a lot of people realize the precariousness of the way many folks who live in these parks, the precariousness of their situation.
I didn't even realize. I mean, yeah, I should have realized that. I guess that people who own their building, some of them are renting the actual physical ground that their mobile homes located. And every time I see a mobile home, I figure that this, you're either renting it altogether, land and building. But and they found a loophole to basically screw you out of your property.
Yeah, this level of exploitation is horrendous. And look, there are manufactured home parks out there where we should all be so lucky to live. I know in some places that are like hurricane prone or earthquake prone, some people of great means actually own them because they don't want to pay the insurance rates on a regular home. So this is a way to save some money and have some very nice property. But you have some of these places where, you folks on fixed incomes, they are totally dependent on the management of that park and the way that the contracts are written, because they're leasing the space rather than the unit. They end up with relatively few rights and a whole lot of responsibilities that can be thrown right back on them when things go wrong that really should be under management. And again, the person ends up losing what they may have paid. I don't know how much a manufactured home costs these days, but they may have been paying, tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for that space, appliances and everything else. And they risk losing that altogether, which is not what happens when, in most cases, unless the building is condemned, when you have a standard property. And it's very different because if I'm renting a rental unit in a multi-unit apartment, again, I'm not losing the property that I've purchased and maintained. It's a very precarious situation, and this is one example of it. But I'm also very concerned. Why the jump? Is this a possible land grab, which would be very easy to do if the utility companies are in collusion with local politicians and the owners of the park and the management of the park?
It'd be interesting to see, like in cases like that, because we have heard stories about people's water bills jumping up, and it wasn't because, not so much because of like leaks or anything like that. It was because like a data center had moved in, and because they were using so much water, anything it's just the supply and demand. If you're using more and more of something, the price of it's going to go up. And unfortunately that happens with people who have nothing to do with the data centers. And that's something we definitely need to keep an eye on, and we do. We always tell you about this stuff. So this is an interesting story here. I know we all like a nice little taste of grandpa's cough medicine. You know what I'm talking about. So a little sippity doo-dah, you know what I mean? A little nom-noms for daddy and mommy of the liquid variety. So laser technology, lasers, developed to test alcoholic drinks for methanol. Now, why is that so important? So researchers have developed laser-based technology that can detect chemicals like methanol, which killed 2 Australian teens overseas in 2024 without opening drink bottles. Thousands of people suffer from methanol poisoning each year, while hundreds die, including teenagers Bianca Jones and Holly Morton Bowles, who died from tainted drinks in a Laos backpackers hostel. Methanol is a highly toxic alcohol that, when broken down by the human body, turns into formaldehyde and formic acid. More, please. It can be illegally added to alcoholic beverages, can also be accidentally created during poor quality alcohol production and distillation, and is a risk in some popular overseas destinations. Adelaide University researchers at the Center of Light for Life have developed a way of shaping lasers to be able to determine if there is methanol inside sealed bodies. Well, in bodies too. Yeah, if you're if you're clear, or bottles, that would be. We make a cone shaping, and this allows us to go through the bottle, and we avoid all the signals coming from the glass of the bottle, said PhD candidate Anna Kritzinger. Then we change the color. Look at that, COLOUR. Ooh, fancy. Or the wavelength of the laser slightly while we're taking measurements, and this allows us to pick up very small amounts of the methanol that's inside of the bottle. With all of this combined, we can detect methanol at a concentration of 0.2% inside any bottle. It doesn't matter which color the glass is, and it doesn't matter whether it's whiskey or vodka or tequila inside the bottle. Ms. Kritzinger said the gold standard for testing if alcohol and methanol in it was a process called chromatography. That's a big word. Whereby containers of alcohol had to be open and a sample needed to be tested in a lab. I did that for a while, but there was no methanol involved. I was just opening bottles just for funsies because Daddy likes his taste. She said that would likely continue to be the case, but hoped the new technique would offer a more practical solution when they could make a smaller, more accessible device. When we make this handheld, this could be used, for example, in distilleries, at bars, at border control, anywhere really, said Ralph Muthon. One of the other researchers, he had 2 A's there, so I went to Ms. Kritzinger said it could offer a proactive approach to testing for methanol rather than reactive to events of people being exposed to methanol. Having a machine like this and really checking before it reaches customers whether it's safe to drink, she said. The technology is quite simple. In practice, it should be able to be implemented in real life and help people. Dr. Muthan said they were also looking at other ways the technology could be used. He said, here in South Australia, we're interested in the wine industry. Ooh, that's your neck of the woods there, Lainie.
A little bit.
Where we'd like to combat fraud, or the olive oil industry, where we're interested in detecting contaminants in our olive oil, he said. Ms. Kritzinger said it could be used down the line for counterfeit perfume or detecting trace amounts of chemicals and microplastics in food or drink. And I think that last one is much more, I mean, that's all important, but I think the microplastics itself, because it seems like microplastics are in everything today, including us,
particularly us.
Yeah. So I think something like that in particular, in cases where methanol is like prevalent in that ends up in these alcoholic drinks. Yeah, sure. But like I would say the microplastics is probably the best use for it.
Sure. What interested me is you mentioned the 2 unfortunate young ladies who died from this. There was a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, there was a spate of people at all-inclusive resorts who were dying or becoming extremely ill after drinking alcohol. And it turns out that the alcohol was tainted. Now, the all-inclusive resorts, the thing with that is that your alcoholic drinks are included. The food is included, your activities, many of your activities are included. So it behooves these hotels, these resorts, to try and keep their costs low. So if they're buying cheap liquor, not using reputable distributors, they are either knowingly or unknowingly buying liquor that has been tainted or poorly prepared. So apparently the methanol can be, sometimes it's an additive or it's been added, but in some cases it can result from poorly manufactured spirits. And so it ends up in those bottles. So anything that can make things can make things safer for everybody, I think would be welcome. And it sounds like this is a pretty straightforward technology that can be, as it said, turned into a handheld device. Good for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got stills around your neck of the woods there, Willie, don't they? Get the moonshiners.
I had a relative who's long passed away. Did jail time for having a still. So, yeah,
that shouldn't be a crime. That should be a national treasure. But I'm a little bit biased.
He ended up with a state job. That was a different time.
Yeah. Maybe it's because he had good corn mash. Yeah. Corn mash will get you into high places. That's for sure.
Yeah, he got hired by the state of North Carolina, and he made a good living. Yeah, after he served jail time.
Yeah, and that's probably par for the course of many politicians and government people nowadays. But let's go wait and take our chances in the recurring tide. We got about 2 or 3 here. This is probably be a little bit more in your neck of the woods as far as like topics here, Willie. Talking about Darlene Graham, Lindsey Graham's sister. She took the spot for Lindsey Graham after he passed away, and now it seems that Lindsey Graham and Darlene Graham, Lindsey Graham's sister, to run for full Senate term. I'm sorry, I just misspoke.
Oh no. I was thinking the same thing.
He looks pretty good. He's not bad. He got his hair did. Darlene Graham, the South Carolina interim senator and sister of the late Lindsey Graham, said she plans to run for a full Senate term after Donald Trump endorsed her last week. In an interview with Sean Hannity that will air in full on this coming Monday, Graham, who was appointed by Governor Henry McMaster to finish the remainder of her brother's term, said she had made a decision. I'm in, she told the Fox News anchor. Graham made history as the first woman to represent South Carolina in the Senate when she was sworn in last week. Her brother, Lindsey, died earlier this month after what his office called a brief and sudden illness. The chief medical examiner preliminarily ruled that he died of aortic dissection due to cardiovascular disease. On Friday, Trump said he had encouraged Darlene to run for a full 6-year term representing South Carolina. I asked Darlene, for the good of our nation, to run for the U.S. Senate in the special Republican primary. He wrote on, or somebody wrote on Truth Social. Darlene, who comes from an absolutely incredible family, has been a winner all her life, and she should accept has my complete and total endorsement. Because Lindsey Graham won the Republican nomination last month, the state will now hold a special primary to replace him on the ballot on August 11th, and that's coming up in a few weeks. So she got appointed, and that's nothing unusual, right? We talked about this last week, how that wives, husbands, or whatever kind of get appointed to that. And since Lindsey didn't have a spouse or any kids, she was the natural one to replace him. So what I want, you're a Carolina guy, but not South Carolina. You're in the good Carolina. It's no hate to the South Carolina people. I bash on your barbecue, but
I mean, we're not entirely a good Carolina. We had Jesse Helms as our senator for years.
Yeah, but recently it's been some really bad ones. But anyway, what do you think her chances are winning this? Do you think everybody's gonna back her just like they did Lindsey?
Probably family connections. Probably she has the political machine already on standby, since Lindsey Graham was an institution in himself. So I suspect that she'll probably get the nomination, and she'll probably win. South Carolina is very neoconservative foreign policy wise, very evangelical religiously. She will probably win.
Okay,
Lainie, your thoughts?
She'll be the first woman to be a South Carolina senator. Yeah. Yeah. Well, after Lady G.
There was wow. Yes. Yeah, we had Lady Bird Nixon. Was it Lady Bird?
No, that was Johnson.
Oh, that was it was some bird. But recently this kind of happened in New York when Andrew Cuomo stepped down, and what's her face? Said she was the lieutenant governor. She stepped up and became the governor, and then she was actually elected into office. Kathy Hochul, that's her name.
Yeah.
And but that was on the New York state level, and I think at the time that was the first time New York had a female or a woman governor. of the state. So now to see this, yeah, she's got the name recognition, and of course she's going to have all that APAC money behind her too, because her bro sure as hell had it. So why not her, right? Especially if she's just going to basically rubber stamp everything that he did.
Yeah.
So we'll that's August 11th. What's this? That so that's probably a couple 3 weeks that's going to happen, I think. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yes, Willie.
Probably one of the safer Republican seats because it is South Carolina. That's it's hard to say how everything's going to turn out on election day nationally, but I think South Carolina is deep red, and I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't see any kind of grass movement rising up recently in South Carolina anyway. There have been little sparks.
Purple.
Yeah. Oh, North Carolina's purple?
It's purple leaning red.
Yeah. It does tend to sway. You've had Democratic and Republican governors kind of.
They love their Democratic governors as a general rule, but they tend to vote Republican in presidential elections. And most of the time, for U.S. Senate these days, it usually leans Republicans. Let's see, I cannot think of the current Republican senator. I cannot think of his name. He's not Ted Budd, but the other one.
Scott? Is it Scott?
No, not Scott. I can't think.
Are you talking about You're saying North Carolina, right?
North Carolina.
All right, that's right.
Yeah, he's He's actually a little more moderate than. He's probably the closest thing to a moderate in the Republican Party these days. And for some reason, I just can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, because Scott's in South Carolina.
That's right.
He was the other one. Yeah, he's just as vile as Lindsay was, but. Speaking of vile, these prices of these groceries is nutty, go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? But grocery volumes contract for a fifth consecutive month, according to reports. The number of grocery products sold in the U.S. dropped by nearly 2% year over year in June, marking the fifth month in a row where the industry recorded negative unit growth, according to an analysis from Bain and Company. And Nielsen IQ released Thursday. Bain compiled the report using Nielsen IQ data. The trend was strongest in the West, where unit sales were down 3% last month. The decline was least pronounced in the Northeast, where unit sales moved down only 1.3% compared to the West. While the grocery industry has seen negative unit growth in most months since March of last year, the trend has picked up momentum in 2026 as shoppers pull back. A shopper pullback has outpaced pricing growth and inflation, according to Bain. So pressure on grocery sales has mounted against a backdrop of rising gas prices, steady grocery inflation, and reduced participation in SNAP, according to Bain. The data from the management consultant firm, 8 in 10 people in the U.S. say they are trying to spend less, with nearly 30% making a concerted effort to reduce grocery expenses. Among people looking to spend less on groceries, more than half are moving to lower priced brands, and over 40% are turning more to coupons and promotions. Notably, half are simply buying fewer items. Those factors conspire to push grocery unit sales down during every month since February, when the figure was off by 2%. Unit sales declined 1.8% in June and 1.9% in May after falling 2.2% in April. Unit sales in January, the only month since June 2025 where Bain recorded unit sales growth for the grocery industry, were up by 1.7%. Bain added that the decision by some grocery shoppers to turn to e-commerce helped contribute to the sustained decline because online shoppers generally have smaller baskets. Interest in the GLP-1 medication has also played a role, Bain said, noting that its data shows that between 30 and 40% of people who use those drugs say they are actively looking to buy fewer groceries. The data makes clear that grocers need to step up their pitches to shoppers to counter the economic strains people are facing. Kurt Grichel, head of Bain and Company's America's retail practice and co-author of the report, said in a statement, "The path back to growth is not just about low prices, but a value story that shoppers believe in and come back for," he said. Retailers that respond with precision on assortment, promotion, and private label will be best placed to capture the trips that are still up for grabs. So yeah, it's like these days, the rent's too damn high, and so are the grocery prices. So people are trying to adapt to that, right? I mean, they're buying less things than they normally would in a better economy, right? But then you also have people who are figuring out their shrinkflation out there, where the stuff that they bought like maybe 5 years ago is a lot smaller than it was, but they're still charging the same price. And plus you have people who have said, you know what, I need to grow my own food too, because it seems to be a lot cheaper to do that. And the market, I guess the market is responding, right? These prices have to come down if nobody's going to be buying them, right?
Well, yeah. In the next story, there's going to be an interesting segue that's going to give another perspective on how this is going to impact everybody. You have the GLP-1 drugs, and people are eating less in general. They may be buying more specific foods like protein powders, protein bars, protein enriched foods because they want to prevent muscle wasting. But you've also got you've also got the cut and snap benefits. And remember, SNAP benefits work in regular grocery stores. They are not only feeding individuals and families, they subsidize grocery stores as well as food manufacturers, and of course the companies that serve them, the logistics companies. So you've got that happening. You've got a bit of a perfect storm here. And in some areas, grocery industry will be able to weather these storms. But as we're going to see in the next story, and I want Millie, if you want to chime in here on this, that's fine. But there we'll see somehow it's impacting some areas. That's why I put these two stories together.
Well, only thing I'll have to add to that about people growing their own foods and everything. I've been thinking about, right now I retire in 2031, and I'm planning to move out of this area. Thankfully, I don't have to pay rent. I inherited the place I live, so it's mine, and all that. But when I move out of this area, I'm actually thinking about moving to the North Carolina mountains, and I thought in the rural area, I was thinking about starting a garden and things of that nature, just to do a little bit of self-sustainment and kind of as much as possible living off the grid, and just giving that just to see how this is going to be. So as far as the grocery bill, I hope that's going to be my way around it and everything.
Yeah. Let's get to this next one here. As Yellow Banana ready to close 7 Chicago stores, loses tie with Save-A-Lot. I was hearing about this morning on WGN radio too. They were talking about this. So there's Save-A-Lot there. Okay. So an untimely death and reduced supplemental nutrition assistance program, that's SNAP for you and me, benefits will likely force Yellow Banana to close 6 Save-A-Lot Chicago locations that receive grant money to refurbish and reopen the locations. Supermarket News, that's this thing here, has learned all 7 many serving food deserts could close at the end of this week. A source with knowledge of the situation confirmed the possible closures after an exhaustive effort to keep the stores afloat. That included Save-A-Lot providing and paying for a substantial amount of inventory for months and meeting with the city's Department of Planning and Development. The company has already notified employees of the possible termination and will pay them through the month. The setback was the result of a domino effect. In April, Yellow Banana CEO Joe Canfield suffered a fatal stroke. Canfield drove Yellow Banana's investment in the 6 stores, and according to the company, does not have anyone qualified to pick up the pieces. The stores have not paid for inventory for the past 6 or 7 months, largely because of SNAP benefits cutbacks that came with the passage of the big, beautiful bill. Yes, actions have consequences, y'all. According to the source, SNAP money at the 6 stores accounted for almost 50% of revenue, and SNAP sales have declined about 27% year over year. Projections at the start of the year showed the stores were getting close to breaking even, but would still lose in the range of $500,000, a figure the source said was not insurmountable. Then the SNAP cuts kicked in. Save-A-Lot has ended its arrangement with Yellow Banana for the stores to remain open beyond July. An investor would have to emerge with a plan to get the stores back on track. Save-A-Lot is willing to work with a partner without any upfront money, but the chance of someone or a solution surfacing dwindles with each passing day. If there's a solution that keeps them open, and that means Save-A-Lot's just the wholesaler and keeping them, helping them to transition to a community-run grocery store, a municipal grocery store, whatever it is, even if it has a different banner outside, Save-A-Lot will facilitate that, the source said. Canfield's absence is perhaps the biggest dagger in all of this. He was heavily involved in the community and with all the stakeholders to get the project off the ground, and may have been able to come up with a solution when these stores encountered significant financial headwinds. Under Yellow Banana's ownership, Save-A-Lot took on additional operational responsibilities to keep these stores open and maintain continued service to customers. We're committed to the well-being of the communities we serve. We will continue to engage with city and community leaders to explore ways to provide access to quality food and services for residents, and we are actively supporting impacted Yellow Banana team members throughout the transition, a Save-A-Lot spokesperson told Supermarket News. Yellow Banana had a $26 million deal with the city to refurbish and open the 6 stores, which had to remain in business for 10 years from the time the stores opened for Yellow Banana to receive full compensation. Opening the stores did not come easily, as the process faced construction delays, community concerns, and fines. Despite meeting an extended deadline, the city fined Yellow Banana for failing to meet certain project criteria. The company had committed to allocating 26% of hard construction costs to minority-owned businesses and 6% to women business enterprises. Additionally, Chicago residents were supposed to complete at least half of the total work hours. The city issued a fine of $5,735.23. That's interesting with the 23 cents. When it found that Chicago residents completed only about 43% of the work at the Morgan Park store. Yellow Banana also paid approximately $70,000 in liquidated damages for failing to meet the minority women-owned business and resident workforce requirements at the Gresham location, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. Okay, there's not much more here. Okay, so renovations at each store included new flooring, lighting, equipment, HVAC systems, dairy and meat cases, paint, decor, fixtures, and signage. The Auburn Gresham store, which opened, am I saying that right? Gresham, is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Which opened in mid-January, encountered unexpected subsurface conditions that required additional geotechnical work, delaying the project by several months. So those chuds, the cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers down there, causing havoc again. The Save-A-Lot on West 63rd and Halstead also experienced delays as the company collaborated with local residents and community leaders to ensure the new store would stock locally sourced products. So again, actions have consequences, and people tend to think, people who don't really know tend to think, oh, snap, that's just, you just giving poor people some food. No, it affects more than just poor people. It affects businesses.
Yeah, and I want to point a few things out here. The whole thing with Save-A-Lot and Yellow Banana, that happened when Dominick's pulled out of the Chicago area. Their stores were profitable, but they decided they weren't profitable enough. And I think Dominick's had been taken over by Safeway. Don't hold me to that. But Safeway decided, hey, they're not profitable enough. They pulled them out. Well, that led to a mad scramble for companies to take over these stores. So Tony's took over for the Dominick's near where I used to live, Uncle Warren, and Mariano's, and I mean, there's all kinds of companies started just taking over the grocery stores. But in the food deserts, or which are often in lower income neighborhoods, particularly those serving people of color, nobody wanted these grocery stores. And that was going to leave very large groups of people without accessible supermarkets, without supermarkets, period. And eventually Yellow Banana and Save-A-Lot, people were not crazy about them because the quality of their food often wasn't all that great. But it was that, or, you were going to be going to Dollar Tree. So, which is no longer even $1. But so, this was this was bringing them in, the grants, all of this was a deal with the city to keep grocery stores in some very vulnerable communities. Again, we keep on talking about what happens. There are some situations that come up. People with privilege, we might get a cold, but that same thing that happens, people who don't have that privilege end up with pneumonia. Mm-hmm. And this is another example of this. And if those Save-A-Lot stores go, there's going to be a serious problem. One of those Save-A-Lot stores, I believe, is up in Rogers Park, right near the Howard Elk Station. That is a major public transportation hub that serves people in a pretty large area. And having it so close to the Howard Transportation Hub, which has a couple of L lines, the yellow line and the yellow line, the purple line, and the red line is there, along with a ton of buses. And it's on the border between Evanston and Chicago. Having that grocery store there is critical for that community, working folks who depend on public transportation. They can, pick up food or do their shopping while they're going to and from work. Removing that, the impact on that community is going to be, I don't even want to think about it. That's how bad it's going to be. So I'm letting folks know this is what happens when you have disinvestment, progressive disinvestment. Nobody is bothering with infrastructure. You demoralize the community members, and this is what we get.
Yeah. I see what Mom Donnie's trying to do in New York with the municipal grocery stores for the food deserts there. I was on Abby's show yesterday. She said, well, there's not that many food deserts there. I said, well, yeah, you got to go out to Queens. You got to go to East New York. There are a ton of them out there. And because of that, and it's a lot of low income people in those areas who a lot of times have to hop on a train to go somewhere to go get their groceries elsewhere.
Well, I don't necessarily like to label everything racist, but I think that the food deserts exist, and this ambivalence by the Trump administration of not giving a damn with what's going on with SNAP's benefits does kind of smacks of racism, because to people they always like to paint a black or brown face on welfare, on public assistance, or anything that's helpful universally for working class people. Entitlements, they like to put color in there to make white people resentful, and they fall for it every time.
We always fall for it. Mm-hmm. We always fall for it, and we end up manipulated into all this. If you do any forgive me, but if you do any research into the westward expansion with the so-called pioneers that moved out west, what you find out was that the government knew that they were sending a lot of these so-called pioneers to their deaths. They knew that the land was not good for agriculture, that it had very unpredictable climates, and that a lot of these people were moving out there were going to be killed. They were going to die. They were going to die out there one way or the other, because the conditions were that bad. But yet they had no problem recruiting people from the eastern half of the U.S., from Europe, from the UK, to come in and homestead so they could push the Native Americans out. And white people fell for it, absolutely fell for it. And many died brutal, horrific deaths. Look up the children's blizzard, where school children going to and from school were killed because those prairie blizzards came on so suddenly. Look at the locust invasion that happened in Minnesota. And yes, there was a locust invasion They descended on these areas. They ate through, people would put quilts on top of their things to try and keep the locusts off. They ate through the quilts. They went and they ate all the wooden handles on rakes and hoes and plows and whatnot. They were so significant. There were so many of them on the train tracks. There were train derailments. And the government out east blamed the people living out there for their living conditions and said, if they are determined to be eaten alive by locusts, let them. This was a natural phenomenon. And this happened, if you look into this, that white people, and I'm using that term in the sense of whiteness, people who are classified as white, have been manipulated time and again in violence against people of color, even though the white people are themselves being horrendously abused in that process. And this has happened, and we fall for it every time.
I've noted Tim Black one time mentioned something about this, and he talked about why we do not have universal health care in the U.S. And a large part of it is racism. I mean, and I don't mean like the Tea Party movement being against Affordable Care Act, which there was a lot of racism, let's face it. But we're talking about back in the 19th century. What was the name of that insurance company? Prudential. A German came in there. A German man came in there to run the thing, and he fought. He was like pushing for propaganda, even in the days of Theodore Roosevelt, against having some kind of a national health insurance system, because blacks are going to benefit from this race neutral, program of national health insurance. And Germany had their national health insurance, several decades earlier. So it smacks of racism. I'm not saying everybody who opposes universal health care is racist, but almost everybody who's racist opposes it. So.
Yeah, it's the much maligned Little House on the Prairie books by Laura Ingalls Wilder. Her name was stripped for a children's literature prize in her name because of the fact that her books did contain racism, particularly against Native Americans, but also there was a minstrel show and that sort of thing. And now people are coming back and looking at the books because she in fact documented. She and her daughter, who was a libertarian, was one of the first libertarians in this country and really helped to give birth to create the modern day libertarian party, had edited the books to show this gritty individualism. But there was a lot of history in there. When you read between the lines, you see the locust plagues, you see the dangerous blizzards, you see how difficult it was to farm this land that the government knew really it was not going to be easy to farm it. It shows how these folks were used to do this work, and people cannot even see their own interests, and because of their racism and their classism, and they decided that the white people decided they were temporarily embarrassed millionaires rather than workers who were very much at the mercy of hostile economic systems.
Well,
So basically, the not saying everybody who's like an advocate of individualism is this way, but when you hear things like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and everything of that nature, that's riddle. There's no other way that you can come to conclusions other than, just painting public assistance with a black face and getting mad at minorities, kicking them while they're down. Just that's what it comes down to.
Well, so, speaking of people being manipulated to harm people of color, we're gonna talk about the Iran war here in just a second. I know, king of segue. Nearly 100 U.S. troops injured by Iran strikes, according to the Pentagon. Nearly 100 American service members have sustained some degree of injury since July 7th in the latest wave of fighting between the U.S. and Iran. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell said Monday, Iran has been retaliating against nightly U.S. strikes by targeting its military bases across Bahrain, Iraq, Jordan, and Kuwait. The Pentagon's disclosure came nearly 5 hours after spokesperson Parnell denounced a New York Times report saying that the Pentagon withheld dozens of U.S. military injuries in the Iran war as baseless and malicious. Yeah, it's funny how you get called out and then you have to do the mea culpa later. This is the most transparent Department of War in history. We challenged the so-called journalists who wrote these lies, one of whom was recently subpoenaed regarding an alleged, okay, whatever, he's just talking shit. As early as Tuesday morning, the official Pentagon database tracking U.S. casualties showed that no U.S. forces were killed or wounded in action in July. The Department of War has now published that 3 U.S. Army soldiers were killed in ballistic missile attacks on Muwafaq Salty Air Base in Jordan over the weekend. Private Isabella Gonzalez, 19 of Carrollton, Texas. Lieutenant Tyler James Feehan, 25 of Iwa Beach, Hawaii, and a 3rd soldier provisionally listed as missing. In Iraq, Sergeant Michael Emmanuel Swinton of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Your neck of the woods there, Billy. I was going to call you Billy for some reason. I'm going to call you Willie instead. Was killed and another soldier was wounded over the weekend during a controlled detonation of an Iranian attack drone at Erbil Air Base. Parnell said in his Twitter post that further casualty updates would be available on the Defense Casualty Analysis System, a site tracking deceased, wounded, ill, or injured service members for Congress and the president. He stated that a vast majority of the injured only experienced minor concussions and 96% had since returned to work. The Pentagon has had a well-documented history of casualty cover-up throughout the war on Iran. According to The Intercept, the breakdown of the 60-day ceasefire triggered by the signing of the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding has been followed by a series of escalatory attacks on the U.S. and Iran. And the rest of this basically talks about the escalation that's going on. This is not something new. I remember back during the Bush administration, Bush Jr., they stopped letting journalists film caskets that were coming back from Iraq, right?
Yep.
And, because that's a low morale thing. It lowers morale when you tell people how many people are dying. And in this particular case, it's like, what are they dying for, right?
Yeah.
They're basically, these soldiers are over there protecting empire. They're not defending their country. And the U.S. military hasn't defended our country in quite some time as an actual defense force. We have gone out, invaded these countries like Iran and Afghanistan, and now we're going after Iraq and Afghanistan, and now we're going after Iran. We may be possibly putting boots on the ground there, maybe in Cuba as well. And we have to question, as most people who seek peace do, we have to question why they're doing this. And if it's such a grand and noble thing, you would probably say, well, look, these people are dying because of this, and these specific things, but they're not even doing that, because basically people have figured out why we're doing this war against Iran, and particularly who we're doing this war for, and begins with an I and ends with a Zreal, is basically what it is. Your thoughts?
Willie?
This war is for what's called the Epstein class. It's basically for the president's being blackmailed, in my opinion. I think we all know that by a certain country in the Middle East. It starts with an I and it ends with an L, and it's pure hell in between. So that's really what it comes down to. And this war's even less, it's more pointless than the Iraq War. And the Iraq War was wrong. It was one of the most biggest blunder in U.S. history. But this war managed to outdo that. and and people are just not for this damn war. And I mean, I wish people would flood the streets and protest regardless of their ideologies. I mean, you're not even seeing that this much. I'm perplexed, and there's no public support for this war. Anyway, that's just kind of my 2 cents about this whole situation. And Iran is not even that big of a threat in terms of national security against questionable countries in that region. I mean, Saudi Arabia deals more with terrorism against the West than Iran, and Iran is not the aggressor in this situation. I'm not saying they're a great country, the government, but I'm just saying that they're just not the aggressor like the administration tried to make them out to be. That's basically what I say about that.
And that was the thing too. It's like we saw Iraq. They basically went in, took out Saddam Hussein. They went into Afghanistan, and they took the leadership out fairly quickly. This time, they took the leadership out, but Iran was prepared for it. They've had like almost 50 years to prepare for this.
Uh-huh.
And it's like the 7-headed Hydra. You cut one head off, you still got 6 more, and the head grows back. So and I don't think Trump, in his infinite wisdom, that's in quotes, that he thought this was going to be a done deal. He even said so. He said, we'll go in, we'll take them out, we'll put in our puppet basically, and then this will be a done deal. And here we are, since February 28th, so it's March, April, May, June, almost 5 months, getting close to 5 months, and still no leeway, and American soldiers are dying needlessly for it.
We're talking about a president that initially did not know the difference between Hamas and Hezbollah in terms of ideology. So we're he's not exactly the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree.
No, or the brightest candle in the menorah. If you and we're talking about lights. We're just talking about lights here. Sidebar story to what's going on. Of course, Yemen is an ally of Iran. And careful what you wish for. Here comes the Yemenis. So Saudi tankers turned tail in Red Sea amid Yemeni blockade, because Saudi Arabia is siding with the United States, probably to their own detriment. But 2 tankers carrying Saudi crude to China and India reversed course in the Red Sea after the Yemeni armed forces, the YAF, warned shipping companies against loading or unloading cargo at Saudi ports. The Xinlongyang loaded with 2 million barrels of crude at Yanbu, and the Rhodos, carrying roughly 700,000 barrels, turned back towards the Suez Canal instead of continuing through the Bab al-Mandab Strait off of Yemen. A 3rd tanker bound for Yanbu from outside Bab al-Mandab was also forced to reverse course off the coast of Oman. The warning could force cargoes bound for Asia onto far larger routes through the Mediterranean and around Africa, adding weeks to delivery times. This comes after Ansarallah, that's the Houthis for you and me, circulated an email instructing shipping firms to stop loading and discharging cargo at Saudi ports, warning that non-compliant vessels could be struck anywhere Yemen's forces can reach. And they do have a far reach. You can ask the United States about that, where basically Trump had to say, all right, no mas. We'll stop bombing if you stop bombing. So according to Reuters, the message was sent to the Sanaa-based Humanitarian Operations Coordination Center, the HOCC, and stated, vessels are banned from loading or discharging cargo at or from any Saudi ports, warning that violations would draw sanctions and direct military action. The YAF urged that we strongly recommend that your company exercise due diligence and the utmost care in all its dealings, noting that offending vessels may be forced to may be subject to targeting in any location within the operational reach of the Yemeni armed forces. The YAF announced on July 20th a full ban on all Saudi shipping, describing it as a ban on maritime navigation that took effect immediately upon the statement's issuance. The Yemeni forces also asserted Yemen's right to respond to the blockade with a blockade, to escalate comprehensively in response to comprehensive escalation and to firmly establish this equation. And there's more there, but basically bottom line is, so you have the Strait of Hormuz is now a no-go. And now Yemen is turning back these ships as well. These Gulf states that are in league with the United States may be starting to soon regret that decision, as Yemen and Iran are flexing their missile muscles,
Yep,
as it were, over there. And the fun fact about Saudi Arabia, they import 70% of their food. So not only is stuff not coming out, they're not letting stuff in either. So this is going to put pressure on that, and maybe a cautionary tale to these other Gulf states that and maybe make them think twice about working with the United States.
and don't forget what's going on with the desalinization plants.
Right.
Yeah, that have been under attack, and a lot of these states, these countries over there, rely on that because there's maybe not a whole lot of water.
Yeah, it's I don't think this is what the United States and Israel had in mind. They thought it was just going to be very clean and done with, and this was going to be easy. The military might of the United States was going to take over and do this, and it hasn't. And now it's really blowing back in their face.
Well, it makes you wonder, where are their advisors? Where are the people who understand geography and weather and infrastructure and language and culture and religion? And where was all this?
They put ideology on top of everything else. It's ideological and it's religious. Is in the United States side is a fusing of secular neoconservatism from the Bush-Cheney era, and it's a fusing of a fundamentalist Christianity by
one branch of it, one narrow branch of it.
Yeah, John Hagee types. That's what I mean. So
dispensationalists.
Yeah, dispensationalism. Yeah. And it's a fusing of the two ideologies. It's an unholy marriage that's going to get us all, it could wipe out civilization if we're not careful.
Yeah. Or World War III. That everybody, it doesn't seem like hyperbole anymore.
No, it doesn't.
And they're trying. It's not that they're right theologically. I mean,
no,
I'm a lukewarm Christian, but it's not that they're right theologically. They're trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
These people are dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of dangerous, what's going on with reporters now and journalists is pretty scary too. Yeah. So let's dip our toes into the press pool. As the Department of Justice asks for phone records of New York Times reporters, their spouses, and a parent. Yikes. The DOJ is reportedly seeking the communication records of New York Times journalists, and in some cases, those of members of reporters' families, as it works to identify sources the news outlet relied on for its reporting about security concerns surrounding the Qatari gifted jet from Air Force One. You remember that when Qatar gave Trumpy a nice new jet? It had snakes on it too. Snakes on a plane, but only when Trump was on there because he's the big snake. The Times reported more details about the DOJ's efforts on Monday, saying the department had sought records from third-party communications companies, including calls and messages on the phones of two of the reporter's spouses and one reporter's mom. The DOJ earlier this month sparked a wave of backlash from press freedom groups when it issued subpoenas against Times journalists who reported on the jet stories that hinged on confidential government sources. Gesundheit. The move was considered unprecedented, and the Times has vowed to fight the DOJ's efforts in court. Seems like a lot of things are unprecedented these days. In a letter to a New York judge last week, the Times called the move deeply concerning and argued it fits an alarming pattern of conduct that seeks to crack down on independent reporting on President Trump's administration. The DOJ on Monday said any subpoena issued by the Department of Justice is done so in full compliance with federal law and internal department policy. Wink, wink, Nudge, nudge. In a statement to The Hill last week, the department insisted reporters are not the targets. Those leaking classified information are. Well, that would be the sources that are doing that. So, and you're going to go through them with through the journalists to do it. We recognize there may always be natural tension there, but we are not going to ignore the law and stop investigating the people who work in the administration think it's okay to leak classified information impacting national security. Take a drink, national security. They always invoke national security. Doesn't matter what it is. The Times is separately fighting litigation against the president relating to its reporting on his most recent run for the White House, which Trump argues is defamatory, and lawyers for the news outlet say is without merit. Trump has repeatedly attacked the Times during his 2 terms in the White House, often calling out reporters by name and describing the company as failing and fake. Now, I have no love lost for the mainstream media, but there are legitimate journalists out there trying to seek the truth on stuff that this administration is doing, and the Department of Justice is not looking for justice. They're being used as attack dogs. What do you guys think?
Yeah. And like when you're asking for names of other, family members and that sort of thing, and that can really mess a person up. I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, if I do something, I'm willing to take it on the nose. But once you go to my family members or people who I love and care about, that's going to mess with me in a very different way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's good reason I've always referred to them as the Department of Injustice. That's basically.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I see that too. And that's why we always have to stay vigilant and make sure that the real journalism is being reported, and that attacks by the state against these journalists is also happening too. We need to make sure that people know this, and not a lot of people do. They just, they stay in their little bubbles. So this one journalist here, I found this laid off journalist started his own news site, and Facebook AI decided he was fake. Which is kind of ironic because Facebook AI is definitely fake. So Jeremy Hogan was spending his Saturday afternoon covering a small protest when his wife urgently texted him. Hogan, an independent journalist based in Bloomington, Indiana, met up with her at the library and learned that his outlet's Facebook page, which he relies on financially and to connect with thousands of readers, had been suspended. Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, flagged his page using artificial intelligence. Shocking, I know. It suspected his account violated its community guidelines. Oh, there's one. Take a drink there, too. We're going to get drunk by the end of this show. On, quote, inauthentic behavior and, quote, may misuse our platform to pretend to be a local or domestic voice. 6 days later, Meta informed him that the decision was final and he could not connect with a human agent because they probably don't have any. Because they couldn't change the outcome of a review because, that's impossible for some reason. It says, I'm impersonating a local journalist, but I'm the journalist, he said in a message to a Meta chatbot, to which it replied, bleep, bloop, get out of here. However, on the evening of July 20th, his page was reinstated without an explanation of why it went dark for 9 days. Throughout the hassle, Hogan said he was never told why his page was flagged. A screenshot of his banned page displayed no specific flagged violations. Amid shrinking local news coverage, Hogan's online outlet, the Bloomingtonian, has grown into a critical news source for the college town of 80,000. His Facebook page of 67,000 followers is a key way he distributed information, garnering millions of page views a month. Despite being back online, the blackout is still going to cost Hogan. Facebook wiped his 111 paid subscribers and refunded their payments for the current month. Some of his ability to monetize his content remains unavailable. Last year, he made nearly $11,000 on the platform, a significant revenue driver to support his work, he said. So, and so when you have these platforms, trying to gatekeep and say that you're a journalist or not, and it's not even a human doing it, it's a robot doing it, that is some scary stuff, because a lot of these independent journalists rely on these platforms in order to get the word out. And now it seems like, obviously Facebook is not reliable. at all when
Yeah.
it comes to any sort of like real scrutiny or real. It just seems like they just let the AI do everything.
Yeah.
And and it hurts these journalists like that. And I personally think that's by design.
Yeah, I think it is by design, and good on Indie Star for shining some light on this. Good on them for doing it. One of my things is the reporting. I'm wondering if there was a coordinated effort to report his account, and they get a certain number of reports, and they automatically put the ban hammer. And the fact that it was inexplicably reversed kind of points to that.
Yeah, that's weird too.
There's been this thing in Chicago where if there are 3 fights outside your bar where the cops are called, you can lose your liquor license. Well, if somebody wants to take out a competing bar, all they have to do is set up a couple of fights, and the bar loses its license. Well, I think the same thing is happening with some of these outlets, and some people don't like you, they don't like your account. They get people together, maybe even pay people to file the reports, and nobody's bothering to evaluate them.
Well, it just reminded me of what happened 4 years ago. I was doing a live stream on my show, and and this is when they were cracking down on people who criticized the presidential election of 2020. Denialism. Now, I didn't vote for Biden. I don't like Joe Biden, but I thought he won the election.
Yeah.
And everything. But when I talked about the fraud in Florida in 2000, that the actual rigging took place in Florida in 2000, the algorithms thought I was saying that the election of 2020 was rigged.
Yeah.
And that's how it was stated to me.
Yeah.
And I responded back to them. I'm like, if you listen back again, I am referring to the election of 2000. Now, I think that if you really do, but you're stupid enough to believe that Joe Biden's bright enough to steal an election, that's on them. But no, I mean, I went and said, I explained that to them. They never responded. I was suspended for a week, and I never got my video back. And if you watch that video, there's no way in hell I would have said.
Yeah.
And there was another program that happened to, but they had their channel restored. They had their channel taken down too, and that was Deep Fat Fried. And they were mocking people in the Deep South that claimed that Biden cheated the election. They were mocking them, but the algorithms of YouTube said, "Oh, election denial, suspend."
Yeah.
Yeah, these algorithms are whack. It's like they gave AI some Everclear, some digital Everclear, and said, "Here, drink up, buddy," and now start screwing with these people's channels.
Or maybe they need that sensor to see if to check inside the bottle before you start.
Yeah, AI, go home. You're drunk.
Yeah. No more methanol for you.
None for you. Well, probably more. Maybe
sometimes I have to be careful what I say on YouTube. When I'm commenting, I'll be like, they could interpret a different what I said in a way that if they really want to shut the channel down, they could do it. So.
Well, Willie, I'll say this. If you had like 1 million subscribers and your own personal liaison to YouTube, that probably wouldn't happen. Not saying, just saying. Speaking of clowns, let's go to the Clownfish School. And our main clown today is, as most times he is Trump. So recently he talked about Chinese influence on our elections with absolutely zero proof. He put the proof online at whitehouse.gov, and everything was redacted. So it's like, oh, your proof is a bunch of black lines. Okay, right. Now fast forward to what was it, yesterday, today? So Trump downplays Chinese election interference 5 days after describing breach of historic proportions. So it's a breach of historic proportions. And now today it's like, nah, it's fine. Don't Daddy likes a little some of this. So I drank a bottle of liquor this big, and I swear to God, I was just talking shit about China. I didn't mean to. 5 days after blaming China for the largest compromise of election data in history, Trump shrugged off Beijing's actions, who basically said, you're full of shit, and said the United States was doing the same thing. Trump has said vaguely on Tuesday that the U.S. would discuss the matter with Chinese officials, but he previewed no punishment and claimed the alleged breach was in the rearview mirror. It took place a long time ago. I think China's maybe a little bit different today than it was then. What, from 5 days ago? Is that what? So he said, despite his accusation last week during a primetime speech that I think only Fox News ran, that China had illicitly acquired 220 million U.S. voter files starting in 2020, and that the data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. Trump on Tuesday then said the alleged infringement was no different from U.S. actions against China. They do things and we do things to them. I'll be honest, we do things to them too. It's not a one-way street. Secretary of State Aquaman Marco Rubio said Wednesday that he did not discuss the topic of election interference with the Chinese counterpart at an ASEAN conference in the Philippines. We talked a lot about the visit in September. That was really the gist of it. It's just to create the groundwork for another positive visit. Anyway, it goes on. But the point is, Trump likes to talk a lot of shit and not back up his bullshit. And when he gets called out on it, he has to go, "Oh, sorry, my bad." And or even if he does that, and then he moves on some other bullshit that he's talking about.
Yeah,
good stuff. Yeah, and he'll probably do it again soon. So, because if he's still breathing, he's gonna be talking some shit.
Well,
yeah, I guess
say about that is that I do not believe that China or Russia are interfering. Well, to a degree, I think every country interfere in other people's elections.
Yeah.
But I do not think that Russia or China is the Democrats claim it's Russia that's doing this. They're full of crap. The Republicans claim it's China doing this. They're full of crap. And I don't think neither of them fully realize China and Russia are friendly with each other. And really, the one country that interferes with our U.S. elections is the country that we really are fighting on behalf with this invasion in Iran right now. So with a man that I consider the 21st century Adolf Hitler, objectively, I won't mention any names, but we know who that gray hair man is that Trump is so fond of, and Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer and Mark Levin is so fond of, and the dispensationalist Christians are so fond of. Yeah.
It's like if Hee Haw got a hold of some PCP, you know what I mean? It just seems like that's that whole crowd. They're just, we got to blame everybody but ourselves.
But no Roy Clark to play for us.
Exactly. I know, right?
Yeah.
R.I.P. Bing, ding, 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 ding,
Good
ding.
Lord, that man was amazing.
We're bringing that back.
Yeah.
Finally, today, I was a little skeptical about this, Lainie.
Yeah, I know it's all my fault.
So these winter melons are keeping pets cool, but I have no problem with that. I always think, I love the pets, make sure you keep them nice and cool in the summer, nice and warm in the winter, that sort of thing. But this seems like a bit much, as we'll find out here, hopefully.
Winter melons are going viral among pet owners because winter melons are 95% water and the peel is below human body temperature. Just wipe one clean and it's a super refreshing cuddle buddy for summer. As long as the skin stays intact, it can be stored in a cool place for 1 to 3 months. So lately, pet parents everywhere have been picking up a whopping 34 pounds giant winter melons for their furry kids. The cats and dogs absolutely love them. Another joke, it even perfectly solved the problem of cats not being able to ride missiles. Someone teased, by the time summer is over, all the cats will have turned bow-legged. Another asked, do Europeans know about this? Someone replied, even if they did know, they probably couldn't get their hands on a whole one anyway. Another with a Dutch IP said, winter melons are expensive. Chinese citizens replied, in China, winter melon is one of the cheapest veggies out there, about 40 cents per pound. So a 34-pound winter melon will only cost you $2. Someone asked, can humans use it too? Another replied, of course. Our ancestors used it that way before AC was invented. A blogger wrote, when I followed the trend and bought 2 giant winter melons for my dogs to beat the heat. Another joked, cats will use it to chill out, But dogs, I feel like they're definitely gonna take a few bites out of it. Someone teased, eating it works as a cool down too. Another son said, I really can't carry the giant one. Someone joked, is that for covering its belly button? Another tease, feels like you bought a cat just to keep the winter melon warm. Winter melons are going viral.
You bought a cat to keep the melon warm. That's funny. I don't know, Lainie. That seemed like some very questionable behavior by these pets. Yeah, they seemed like they were cool, but some of them seemed like they were getting a little too familiar with the melons, if you know what I mean. You know, a little love in the afternoon, skyrockets in flight, afternoon delight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's some wild shit. That's cute though. But you know what? To be fair, for like $2, if you keep your pet cool, sure, why not? Right?
indeed.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Sounds like a weekend in Vegas to you and me, right, Willie? That's those big. Saw some people.
Get you some winter melons out there in the desert.
I know this broad with winter melons. Wow. Let's just say it wasn't my belly was the only thing that was staying cool. Hey, who is this thing on? Who told me to say that? Before we get out of here and get Willie to tell us wherever the hell he is these days, I just want to remind people we got my tonight on the Extra Bulla Live show with yours truly, my buddy and a great journalist of over 30 years. Mr. Don Culpepper is going to be joining me this evening. We're going to be talking about journalism and how it was back in the early 90s or late 80s, really, is when he started, and how it is today. And also we'll be telling some tales out of school too, because we know where all the bodies are buried, based, the figurative bodies, not the literal ones. So yeah, that's going to be tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Substack. Willie, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, we do.
You wanna tell everybody where they can find you?
Really easy. Just type in Willy Bragg TV either on YouTube or on Twitter, and that's where you will find me. As it's facebook.com/The Willy Bragg Show on Facebook. So
also, if you check out our Substack, our show notes, we have a link to Willie, but also to Uncle Warren's show tonight. So that's all right there in the in our Substack.
Yeah, we've been getting lucky with the interviews these last few weeks. So and it's great. It's the easiest job I have. I just sit back and just let people talk.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, these folks that have been coming on, some great stories. We have historians, educators. Last week we had a filmmaker, a good friend of ours, Arturo. Yeah. Shout out to him. Tonight's going to be great because Don really is the guy that got me into journalism. I was just working in news production at WCBI TV in Columbus in the early 90s, and we became buddies. And I saw him. He's won multiple AP awards. He's an Emmy, like a local Emmy Award winner and a Peabody Award winner. The man knows journalism. He knows how to get the information out of a story and get it to the people. So I'm looking forward to that. Willie, do you have anything coming up? Any shows coming up this week?
Yeah, well, I've been busy lately, so my live streaming isn't as frequent as it used to be. I'm trying to do better than that. I should be online tomorrow night and on Friday night.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the women and liquor in your life, Willie, that's what's keeping you down. So, you need to really get away from those vices or do more. I don't know. I'm not a life coach. So
grab you a winter melon and cool down a bit.
We'll never see him again. Willie's like wintermelon. Yeah, that's fun. That was so much fun, and now it'll haunt my dreams. Hopefully. So, any final thoughts before we get out of here, guys? and gals and all.
Great to see everyone. We're up to 103 subscribers on the Undercurrent YouTube channel. If you can go in there and subscribe, it would help us a lot. But we do appreciate everybody's support.
Yes,
totally
indeed.
agree. Everybody follow the Undercurrent on YouTube and Twitter, Facebook, and anywhere else.
And I'll be at the corner tonight at midnight doing my other job, preferably with some winter melons. So, yeah, you'll see me again tonight for the Extra Bull Alive, and then of course Friday morning around noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time for Morning Extra, and a secret show on Saturday. So come out and have some fun Saturday night, and come get your info on again Friday morning too. So thank you, Willie. We appreciate you coming on. It's always a pleasure. Friend of the show, winter melon expert extraordinaire. We always look forward to seeing you on your shows, and I'll be in the audience for your show tomorrow night. So, and I'll be
looking forward to it.
Talking about women and liquor. Anyway, let's get out of here. Good night, everybody. Good afternoon, whatever the hell it is. This is a world thing, so you really can't say whatever. It's like it's afternoon here. So, and I tend to hallucinate a little bit. So take care of yourselves. We'll see you when we see you. Peace.